Hey y'all, it's Alex from You Should Craft, and today I'll show you how to make this super easy, cute wall hanging. In order to make this, you'll need one stick that's maybe like 10 to 12 inches long, depending on the size that you want. It doesn't really matter as long as you're happy with it. I baked mine in the oven though, which helps to kind of like kill some of the bugs and get rid of any weird things that might be growing on it. You'll also need your yarn. The first one that I made, the color is called Verdigris. It's dishy worsted weight yarn. It's cotton and it's from We Crochet. But you can sub out any like basic cotton yarn. And then the color I'm going to be using in the video is called Kenai. And I'm also using a J 6mm crochet hook, scissors, and a tapestry needle. So let's go ahead and get started crocheting. All right, so let's get started. I am doing my slip knot and getting set up. I'm going to start off by chaining 2. And then I'm going to do half double crochets. I will put 2 half double crochets into the second chain from my hook. So I'll have this one chain as a turning chain and then put 2 right here. And I like to go into the back bumps, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to add fringe to the bottom anyway. Plus it's only just the one chain. All right, so I've got 2 half double crochets. I am chaining 1 and turning, and I'm going to increase. So I'll put 2 half double crochets in each of these, giving me a total of 4 stitches for row 2. And let's try that again because I already messed it up and I was just going to put 1 stitch in the first one, but I actually want 2. So here's my second. And then I'll put 2 half double crochets into this next stitch as well. So 1 and 2. So now I have 4 and I'm on to row 3. So I'll chain 1 and turn. I will yarn over, insert my hook, and remember I'm putting 2 half double crochets in my edge stitches. So here is 1 half double crochet and 2 half double crochets. But now I have 2 extra stitches in the middle. So I'm just going to put 1 half double crochet in each of those. 1 and 1. So now I've filled my first 3 stitches and I just have 1 left. And I am going to do 2. So 1 and 2. And so that is row 3. 1, 2, 3. Now for row 4, we're going to do the same thing. So I yarn over and turn. But I mean chain because now I'm yarning over. So I've chained 1 and turned. I've yarned over. I'm going to put 2 half double crochets right here in my edge stitch. 1 and 2. And then just 1 in my middle stitches. And I've got kind of like a pile right there that I'll get rid of. Here's my last with just a single. And now I just have one stitch left. I find that when you're increasing, these can sometimes kind of get lost on the edge. So make sure you're counting each row. But here's 1 and 2. So now you can see that I'm starting to get that triangle shape. So I'll do my next row. Now we're on row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So chain 1, turn, yarn over and insert my hook. I'm going to put 2 half double crochets in my edge stitch. And then 1 half double crochet in each stitch until I get to the very last one. Here's my last of the 1 half double crochet. And so now I've got my last stitch. Remember, it kind of gets stuck on the side over here. And then I'll do 1 and 2. So go ahead and finish this process. You're going to keep increasing on the edges until you get all the way up to row 11, and then you'll have 23 stitches. And so I'll catch back up with you there to show you what to do next. Okay, so I've finished up through row 11. So right now I have 22 stitches. And the next thing I'm going to do is just put down 2 rows of straight up half double crochets. So rows 12 and 13 should both have 22 half double crochets. So I'll show you the beginning, but you know, we've learned about half double crochets before. So this should be like the easiest part of this whole pattern. So the only difference between this and the other rows is that we're not increasing on those first and last stitches anymore. So we're just putting one half double crochet in each of the ones from the previous row, instead of before where we put a couple. Well, we put 1 or 2. So go ahead and finish up your 2 rows of 22 half double crochets, and I will catch up with you to show you what's next. So I finished my 2 rows of 22 half double crochets. So right now I have 13 total rows. We can count though just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So our next step is that we are going to crochet one of these open rows. So these are actually double crochet stitches, and it's the filet crochet style. So it's DC chain, skip 1. The only thing weird, and I'll show you this in a sec when I crochet it too, is that since we have an even number of stitches, we have to kind of like fudge it on our first one. So I'll show you how we do that, but otherwise this is the same technique that we used for our fingerless gloves and for the infinity scarf that are in the Newbie series. And if you're wondering what the Newbie series is, head to the description below to find out. But you can sign up. It's 30 days of free beginner tutorials and patterns. All right, so I have chained 3, which will give us the look of skipping a stitch, but we're actually not going to. So this is going to count as 1. So we're not going to crochet into the first stitch because it kind of already has a stitch. And then we yarn over for a double crochet, and we just go right into the second stitch. So we're not actually skipping 1. But since we chained 3, it will like kind of give us a little bit more space between those stitches as if we had skipped 1 like usual. But so now I've got my double crochet. I chained 1, I'm going to skip 1, and then I'll double crochet in the next. And you'll just repeat that pattern until you reach the end of this row. So, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet in the next stitch. My yarn's kind of getting away from me right now. All right, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in our next stitch. So you can see we have those gaps, and this first stitch, it doesn't have as big of a gap, but there is a little bit of space between them, giving it a look that's similar to the other ones. All right, so I'm chaining 1, skipping 1, and double crocheting. So I'm putting my last double crochet. So we have 22 stitches. And the next thing we're going to do is just half double crochet all the way across. So again, you'll chain 1 and turn. And you're going to crochet into the chain space. So not into the chain itself for these. Oops. So go ahead and finish up your row of half double crochets, and the next couple are also going to be half double crochets, but before I tell you about that, I just want to show you how to do the ending, because you want to make sure that you still have 22 stitches. And since we crocheted into the chain space on our first one, or like, it's just going to get weird over here. So I'll show you that in a sec. So I have my first 21 half double crochets for this row. And I am just going to put my last one on top of this chain. Or honestly, you can just go into the chain space just to finish it up. So we're not crocheting into the chain 2 as if it is its own stitch. Just this chain 3 all counts as 1. So just keep that in mind. But the next thing you're going to do is just lay down 5 more rows of solid half double crochets. So HDC for the next 5 rows up until row 20, and you should have 22 half doubles in each row. So go ahead and finish up those 5 rows of half double crochets, and I'll show you what's coming next. Right, so I just finished row 20 with just half double crochets, and now row 21 is going to be another one of these rows with the spaces in between the stitches. So I'm going to chain 3 again, turn my work, and remember that this chain 3 counts as 1 stitch, so we will not crochet into the first stitch because it's already covered. But we will crochet into the second stitch. And we're just doing double crochets. So now I chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet again. And I'll do that all the way until I get to the end. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet. Once I finish this row, I'm going to do 4 rows of standard half double crochets to finish up the body of my wall hanging. So then after that, I'll show you how to attach it to your stick. Although how you do it doesn't really matter as long as you're happy with how it looks. So just wrapping up this right here. Putting down my last double crochet. And then I chain 1 and turn. And remember, we're doing 4 rows of solid half double crochets. And that will finish up the crocheting portion of your wall hanging. So after that, we're going to attach it to our stick or dowel, whatever you chose to put it on. So go ahead, finish up those 4 rows of basic half double crochets. And I will help you finish up in a minute. All right, so I finished crocheting those last 4 rows of half double crochets, and I trimmed a really long piece of yarn. So this is like maybe 5 or 6 times as long as my wall hanging is wide. It doesn't necessarily have to be that wide, but I don't want to get in the situation where I like don't have enough yarn to weave in at the end, or where I can't even loop it around to attach it. But so I've got my stick. You could also use a dowel, or put wire in here so that it like stays stiff but doesn't have a hanger attached. But anyway, so I pulled off some of the like loose bark pieces on my stick, and now I'm just going to wrap my yarn around it, and I'm going to come in through each of these stitches. So I should have the same number of loops as I have stitches. So I should end up with like 21 or 22 loops on my wall hanging. And you kind of gotta like check it as you're going, because like my first stitch got a little bit loose when my stick moved. So I'm just going under the stick, pulling it tight, and then kind of like fixing it. So again, going under the stick, up through the top of the half double crochet, and then just fixing the yarn so that we want it to be tight, and you also want it to be fairly evenly spaced. I've got my very last one, and I'm going to loop it up one more time and then put it into that stitch. Then I'm just going to kind of double check that my loops look satisfactory. And now I actually didn't have as much leftover yarn as I thought I was going to, so that can be kind of misleading. I've got maybe like a little more than a foot left over, and I'm just going to weave in my ends. So just, weave how you normally would weave in your ends. But that's pretty much it. You can add a hanger however you want to. Like you could tie an extra piece of string to your stick to hang it, or you could attach like wire. It's totally a personal preference. I'm just going to do a little piece of string though, so that then I have like a triangle of string at the top to hang it up. All right, so I finished weaving in my ends and now it is fringe time. So you can do the fringe whatever length you think would be best. Mine, I cut strands of yarn that were about 8 inches long for my fringe. All right, so this is a new external hard drive that I bought and haven't opened yet. So I'm just going to use this as my fringe template. So I'm basically wrapping it a whole bunch of times. And I'm not even counting. You definitely could count. Or, I mean, worst case scenario, you end up with a couple extra pieces or you need to make a little bit more. So I trimmed my first one. And then I'm just going to cut all the way across the bottom of the box. It's kind of hard to do with teeny scissors, so you might want to use your regular scissors. But now I have a bunch of fringe that's all pretty much the same length. And again, it's personal preference. For these, I held 3 strands of yarn together for my first one. But it's totally up to you. So I started like right at the top of my triangle at the bottom. And you can use your hook to pull your fringe in. And then it's a little bit difficult once you have a lot of pieces of yarn, but you can also use your hook to help you kind of flip it the other direction to add it in. And then pull it tight. You may have noticed that I just looped in my starting tail. So that means that's one less end that I have to weave in. And you can do the fringe however you want. I put it at the end of almost every row, which means you'll end up with a lot of fringe, but you can space it out more or really just do it however you want. Uh-oh, I've got one fringe that didn't quite make it in there. And then trimming wise, I left mine kind of messy on my model, but you could use like a ruler and a rotary cutter to get it really angular if you want to. You could just trim it up with scissors. You could leave it kind of messy. It's really up to you. So finish up the fringe however you want. On my first one that I made, I just went basically all the way up the like the triangular part where we were adding our increases. And then I stopped putting more fringe once I reached the last increase row. So again, like you do you and do whatever you think would look the best. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the You Should Craft channel and check out the You Should Craft blog for more free patterns and crochet tutorials.